enter audio. Greetings.
Yo.
Howdy.
How goes it?
It goes. I got 2 of you today. I'm excited.
We have lots of knickknacks and toys too.
I am excited. I am excited to hear all about your knickknacks and toys because today is a special day. You don't understand. Well, you understand, Mr. Jacob, Mr. Siri, aka better known as Siri. Anyway, you and I have been putting off doing this particular episode so that the guy who is lazily getting wasted behind you could catch up and watch the movie. You wouldn't watch the movie because of your brother, because your brother was dying to see it, and you waited until he got to see it with you before you would watch it and review it with me. So you guys got to share an experience, which is okay. I watched King of the Monsters with you in theater, and so like I understand having to wait. I stole that from him.
Now we're even.
Fair enough. So next one, all 3 of us.
Yes.
Yes.
We got to get a big screen though.
Oh my gosh. So out of curiosity, sir, what are you drinking?
Scotch. We are drinking Kilchoman.
Nice.
Maybe you'll get demonetized.
Maybe. I'm drinking coffee.
There we go. Like
out of a 49th Supply Company cup.
Does it say Adventure Time?
Would be way cooler if it did. No. Adventure Fuel, sir. On both sides.
Oh,
Fuel.
that's sweet.
Yeah.
That's a cool looking cup.
It is. It is. Normally it's got a top on here that will keep the coffee hot. It will keep it hot for hours. However, not necessary today, unless it becomes necessary, in which case it was totally necessary.
Can you get them online?
Yes, you can get it at their website, 49thsupplyco.com, I believe. I'll put the link down in the description. I've been putting a lot of their stuff in the links in the description lately. Not a lot, but the last 2 episodes, this and the previous one, I was wearing, the Woo Raven hoodie.
The hoodie.
It's a very cool hoodie. It's very
for real, man.
It's super comfortable too. Like they weren't kidding. It might be the most comfortable hoodie that I'll ever own.
And it's local.
And it's local. It's important.
Yes.
I'm in need of a new hoodie.
I think there was some article I was reading the other day that if every Alaska resident paid $20 towards local businesses, it would inflate the economy by millions or some such.
Yeah. So shop local and such. I wish there was a good Alaskan Scotch, and maybe there is, and you guys could try it for me.
There's talk. We're in a local Scotch group, and technically we can't make a Scotch because a Scotch has to be made in Scotland. But you can make a whiskey. What was that one from Oregon?
Right. I'm trying to remember.
Middleton?
I can't.
I think that was the one. I posted the picture on Instagram of the bottle.
Maybe.
I think you're right, but that was just, I was in love. It's not a Scotch, it's an Oregon whiskey, but it's made using the same method as Scotch. I think they imported peat from Isla, actually.
No, you have to. If you don't remember it, it probably was a good whiskey.
Shut up. Let's see.
Well, you look for that, Jace. I'm gonna let everyone at home
McCarthy's
in private conversations that your brother and I have had. Like seriously, getting him to watch this. Like I tried all of the peer pressure that I knew of to get him to watch Godzilla with me. However, wouldn't work.
Good tactics.
Apparently not good enough.
I don't deserve my brother.
No, you don't. But I'm glad we're on the same page.
But we did go see Nobody.
We did, and we can talk about that after we're done with your brother, because it was definitely a movie that is an investment of time and energy. I haven't stopped talking about it to everyone I've seen today. I recommend going to see Nobody, and I recommend going to see Godzilla or staying home to see Godzilla. But let's get to talking about this Godzilla. You two gentlemen, would you like to break down individually your Godzilla nerd street cred?
Well, should I just start handing this to you?
It started with Dad, and Dad was into monster movies, Hollywood monster movies. So growing up, we watched. He had Godzilla on VHS, the one versus Megalon, and
First one I ever watched was Godzilla Raids Again, which everybody says is like the worst of the Godzillas, and it's like my favorite.
yeah, which it was the second Godzilla film. I loved it too.
First one with Anguirus.
Yeah, Anguirus is the man.
Or Angulus, depending
Anguirus.
on who you talk to.
Yeah, no, Anguirus. We'll punch all those fools in the face. So yeah, just grew up with a love for it and have collected a few knickknacks. Jace actually got Dad a little piggy bank where you open it up,
Yeah.
it plays the Godzilla theme song, and Godzilla's head's there, and then he reaches up, grabs the coin, and pulls it into his mouth. So that was pretty awesome. But for this movie, they had this toy with his breath, and he actually has battle damage too. Look him off. I don't know
Okay.
if that showed up in the light. Kind
Not really, but I get it.
of. This is one Jace has had for a while.
For like years. Like
Which movie?
That one was probably Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. Or no, actually, he's from the Millennium series. So maybe Megaguirus.
Wait, so Godzilla versus Space Godzilla? We'll get to that, I'm sure, later, but
Oh, definitely. Sure.
Dude,
yeah.
there's so many Godzilla movies. Actually, so this is the original Godzilla, the original Japanese version. It makes so much more sense because of how much they cut out for the American version.
Mhm.
Make sure it's in frame.
But it doesn't have Perry Mason is the only thing.
Yeah, we did enjoy the American version had Perry Mason in it, as well as 1984.
Yes. Yes.
They put
Which
him
was
in that
also he was also only there because it was Americanized.
so let me get this straight. They reshot scenes in the original Godzilla, put Perry Mason in there to Americanize it.
Yep.
Yes, much better than they did with Godzilla versus the original Godzilla versus King Kong. There's a really good review online of the original Godzilla versus King Kong where he's like, and here we have the American here to point at the map and not tell us anything that explains what's going on, but point at a map.
I mean, the original Godzilla was an analogy for the horrors of the nuclear holocaust.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of really
They took out a lot of darkness and stuff.
a lot of their anger was like infused in the original story. So to make it a bit more palatable for American audiences, they took a bunch of that out and put Perry Mason in there.
Do you think that that would have changed maybe the way people thought about the bombs dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki had they seen that?
At the time when it came out, I don't know. Later on, maybe.
I don't think people would have cared. They felt that Japan deserved it. There was a lot of alienation against the Japanese and the Asian communities, which is still going on. But for it was interesting, the scales on Godzilla, the way that his skin and the texture
Yes.
in the original, for the Japanese, that conjured up visions they had seen of relatives, loved ones who had been exposed to radiation and how it had affected their skin.
That it was the initial intention with his original design, was to resemble a burn victim.
Yeah, and that didn't come across to the majority of American audiences.
They were like, "Oh, big lizard."
Wow. Okay, I clearly have not seen the original Godzilla. I saw Godzilla 1984. It didn't do a whole lot for me. The current monster universe is kind of where my understanding and expertise in Godzilla, my familiarity, we'll call it familiarity rather than any kind of expertise, comes from the more modern stuff, from the monster universe that currently exists.
Yeah.
I was familiar with things about Godzilla, like he was a product of the nuclear explosions on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but I didn't know those kinds of details. And I think that it's very important. I'm grateful that you two have the context for those specific items.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about is it the Koju series? Which is it?
Showa.
Showa era.
Well, the original era is, yes.
It's the Showa era. The original, the granddaddy.
Yeah, Criterion came out with a really awesome little collection.
Now they need to come out with Heisei and Millennium.
So what are your thoughts on Godzilla 1998? Now, one of the podcasts I produced in the past was Enter the Scottyverse. And our friend Scotty interviewed a gentleman who really firmly believed that, and I think absolutely wrong, that Godzilla 98 was one of the greatest films of all time. I argue that it's actually probably one of the absolute worst, but nonetheless, what are your thoughts on Godzilla 98 as a Godzilla nerd?
It was.
Are we talking about
the original American?
Okay.
It was the original American take on doing a Godzilla film. It's funny because he shows up in the cartoon. Jace is.
Oh, I'm not yet.
Got this. As a monster, if it had been marketed as a monster movie, it was a lot of fun. And I was at the age that I really enjoyed it. But as a Godzilla film, it's not Godzilla.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not Godzilla.
What makes it not Godzilla?
So, yeah, it's the worst Godzilla film because it's not Godzilla. It doesn't breathe fire. It's
definitely a big one.
It's an iguana.
He's not really a threat. Godzilla is a threat and a force of nature. And he was very much just kind of a victim of nature gone awry. And just this big creature kind of wandering around.
Yeah.
That was kind of the whole thing with it. It was fun, but it didn't really have a sense of direction. Like even the goofiest Godzilla movies, they had direction. Like this is a creature that was born because of the folly of man. Mm-hmm. And then
in a lot, it's alluded that he was brought in by nature to protect the earth. He's here to balance out and
put humans in their place.
And then in the latest version, he's the product of an ancient civilization that they haven't gone into detail about exactly why he's here. And then there's been some interesting bits in the movies about there being this ancient rivalry between Godzilla and Kong that I
kind of shoehorned in at the end.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. So for the Godzilla 1998, he's not here as a protector of Earth. He's just this iguana that got shot to gigantic proportions and is trying to iguana,
So it's missing a lot of the lore of the Japanese Godzilla, which doesn't make it a bad movie. That's just kind of the biggest difference. It doesn't have the lore backing it, the mythology, or the grand scale of it all.
So, given with the original film, he was the product of the bomb and came to destroy and lay waste to everything that threatened, and then later that evolved. But
yeah, it did make for a very good cartoon, though. If you haven't seen the cartoon is amazing.
What is your Jace? What is your Godzilla prized possession?
Oh snap! Oh man. It's kind of a tie between the Criterion Showa era collection here and this steel book for the new King of the Monsters one, which really just because it's like sick looking.
Jace is a big fan of steel books. He's actually had a couple commissioned for heavy metal because they don't have a steel book for heavy metal, which is the weirdest thing.
That seems like that would be the first thing they did a steel book for.
Right? Yeah, heavy metal, steel book. It makes sense.
What is Jacob? What is yours?
I could not find them, so apparently they're not as prized as they should be. But years ago, I think 15, 16 years ago, I bought little chibi Godzilla and Megalon because I love Megalon.
You can't find them?
No,
Oh,
they're
no.
somewhere. They're stored away somewhere.
I wonder if I stole them.
But the chibi, it's also called super deformed, really big heads with tiny little bodies, where the head's as big as the bodies and stuff. So it's super cute. And I had Godzilla and I had Megalon.
Megalon was amazing.
Yeah.
Poor Megalon.
So, unrelated to any of this, I have to make this note as a find that somebody got. At Bargain Basement, somebody had decided to sell some homemade aliens art.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
They said it was the drummer from 36 Crazy Fists, right?
yes. So somebody has purchased from Bargain Basement homemade alien art that was done by the drummer from 36 Crazy Fists.
That's really cool.
That is super
That's
cool.
super rad. So you never know what you're going to get at Bargain Basement. I've had some finds up there. I bought some broken stuff from there. But nonetheless, I've gotten some finds out of Bargain Basement. Cheers to Bargain Basement.
So on the alien note, this month was the release of
Yes.
Marvel's issue 1 of Alien, because Disney bought Fox, so they have the rights now. And I bought all six variant covers that I could get. I think there's a couple out there that are specific to certain distributors that I wasn't able to get through the company that I went through. But yeah, I will have to show you all the covers as soon as they come in.
Is this going to be the same universe? What time period does this take place in?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't got the issue.
I don't think even Marvel's sure yet. Like, they want to see how things go before they say it's canon or not.
Maybe. So I'm not sure. I'm hoping there are 2 female characters that were introduced. There was Zula Hendricks by Dark Horse. Zula Hendricks, she was a Marine who went up against the aliens, survived, got brought back to Earth, and escaped the Weyland-Yutani Corporation because they're trying to suppress it. And she met up with Ripley's daughter,
Amanda Ripley, the protagonist from the Alien Isolation video game.
And they're going out and finding all the facilities that the Weyland-Yutani has been using to experiment on the aliens and all the planets that they've been releasing them to take over.
Good.
Yeah. And so I'm hoping so badly that they continue that story, because they are very awesome characters.
Oh, it was some of the best. It was just
good writing, good art.
I'm grateful for your nerddom.
Yes, obsessions are, fun but expensive.
So moving on to the current monster universe series, going back to Godzilla, which brought us all together. Overall, what have been your thoughts? Godzilla King of the Monsters, Skull Island. What do you think?
Ooh. So far, personally, King of the Monsters was my favorite one. Overall, I think the whole universe is meant to be a love letter to the fandom and what we grew up with Godzilla, especially the American audiences, of course, growing up with Godzilla. It doesn't come with the folly of man, nuclear Holocaust lore behind it. Obviously, it's very much just taking cues from monsters fighting monsters, what appealed to us as kids.
Yeah.
And so nobody's really expecting more from it than that. And I think it's been delivering on that in every way. I've been very happy seeing monsters fighting monsters. I don't want to use the word shallow, but it's definitely not as it's not the original Godzilla. It'll never be the original Godzilla. It's spectacle without the substance.
Yeah.
Now everybody that goes and watches Godzilla versus Megalon is like, substance, what is he talking about?
That was one of the goofier films, though.
Oh yeah.
Like Godzilla versus Megalon.
Or Hedorah.
It was originally an episode. It was supposed to be the
Jet Jaguar's episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's supposed to start this series for Jet Jaguar, and they ended up kind of shoehorning Godzilla into it. And then they ended up not doing the Jet Jaguar series.
What is Jet Jaguar?
He is the best robot that Japan ever came up with.
I wish I had a picture of him somewhere.
You're going to find one and you're going to email it to me so I can edit it into the video, sir. All right.
For sure.
So how did this wrap up with Godzilla?
How did what wrap up?
How did Jet Jaguar and Godzilla, how did they get to be in the same sentence? Okay.
They thought that they could get better marketing and more people in seats if they made it a Godzilla movie.
Okay.
So,
I'll send you a picture too.
The Jet Jaguar series, actually, I don't know for sure, but I don't think it ever really took off after that.
It didn't. It got dropped from what I recall.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it ended up being just another Godzilla film. The only appearance of Megalon, who is one of my favorite kaijus, like it's Godzilla and it's Megalon. Megalon looks like a giant beetle. He can drill through the earth with his little beetle hands. He can shoot fire bombs out of his mouth, and then he's got like this electrical attack with his antenna.
If you play the original GameCube Godzilla or the PlayStation
He was the
Godzilla, he is overpowered. He's the one you always want to go as.
Yeah, he's like the only one that can drill underground and go up under the other monsters.
Or pull them under or something.
So he's Bo Jackson on Tecmo Bowl. Okay, got you.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Good to know. It's or if you played Joe Montana's football too, it was always going with the fake punt, because if you went with the fake punt, you could always throw for a touchdown.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I started playing like, can I get up to 200 points in a football game on a video game? I would do that with this. Like, can I do it in the allotted time?
Awesome. I haven't played that in so long. We should do that.
So Jacob, we should. I agree. What were your thoughts on this particular Godzilla and this current monster universe versus the older stuff?
It had a lot more monster fighting, a lot more awesome angles, a lot more angles that put you in the middle of it, and you could really feel like you were there, instead of like watching a WWE match.
So for me, yeah, like there are things that I've never seen in film before, but I got to see them in this series. I've never seen an Air Force jet getting thrown like a ninja star. Like that's
yes.
Like, spoiler alert. But there are things that I've never seen in a film, and I got to see them in this film. In this specific one. This is also the only one that I haven't seen in theaters because of distribution now. It's the first film I've seen in a long time where I wanted to watch it at a theater. Like,
yeah,
so bad. Like at home was cool. I could sit in my underwear and fall asleep and then rewatch it in the morning. I could do that. But whatever, I'd much rather have my hand in my mouth with popcorn where it's blaring through the ears. And I think this is the first film in a long time where I've wanted to be.
It does a much better job of immersing you than the original Godzillas did, I think.
Yeah.
How much of that do you think is technology? It's just
most of it, I think, because they can give you such a sense of scale better than, guys in rubber suits in a miniature city.
What did you think about Hong Kong getting wrecked?
Again? I was like, man, they're going to get a huge economic boost from all the repair that they have to do and hiring all these workers to go through and repair everything.
I was
like, is Apex going to pay for this? Is the Monarch, I
was a little frustrated how Godzilla could keep sneaking up on these cities. Like, oh no, Godzilla is coming. And nobody warned them.
That word. But I mean, then
But during this particular, in this universe, they already know the monsters exist, right? So Jace has a really good point. If we can tell within 10 minutes if a tornado is coming, all right, we should be able to know, like, when Godzilla is coming to hit up the coastal cities. And maybe you have a better defense at this point, because we all know we're in a global society, an extra global society if we're dealing with an existential threat like giant nuclear lizards or titans. But we are forced to become a much more global society, because we as the humans, as the Homo sapiens, we have to protect ourselves from this gigantic lizard who shoots out blue fire and can really fuck shit up. I mean, excuse my language, but he can really do some damage.
Yeah.
What is the human casualty numbers that we're looking at in Hong Kong? All right, like what are we really looking at? Look at them beating up these buildings. They're thrashing each other through buildings like it's nothing, like it's the fun thing to do. I mean, after years of this happening, like you have to have some sort of defense system, right? You have to be able to protect yourselves. And if your leaders aren't protecting you, well, man, you got to figure out a different way to do things. But yeah, you have to have a way to track Godzilla. You have to know when he's 30 minutes out. So you have to be able to provide a warning. And
Best
so
they had were like the bunkers, right?
Yeah. See, that was one of the things I was thinking about, because Monarch was like, oh, Godzilla's changed course. He's heading towards Hong Kong. And it seemed like they had 30, 40 minutes, before he hit the coast there. And you saw people running down to the bunkers and stuff. And like, oh, okay, but no, when they're fighting, there are people in those office buildings who somehow missed out on the emergency broadcast and were just
what it probably was
chilling doing office work. Maybe.
So let's run that. Let's run it back a little bit. Talk about a little bit more about that corporate culture. All right, like if you can't leave work because you've got to file some papers, and you just become so complacent in the attack of Godzilla. Everybody has a cell phone, right? And when you have those wide broadcasts, right, that go out to everybody in the area, everybody gets those messages, and they're like, "Hey, we got to go. Godzilla's coming. Let's go underground and hope for the best." Instead, they're staying at work, filing, like they're doing paperwork at a time and place where paper should be more or less obsolete.
Yeah.
You know what they should have done is since Apex, are we allowed to talk about spoilers for the movie now?
I've already, we're good. Knock yourself out.
Okay. So Mechagodzilla was based in Hong Kong, so they could have played it that Apex, like, I don't know, they didn't
media blackout.
Yeah. So that way they could have had their production come in and save the day. That way Apex seems like the good guy. They could have done that for the plot.
So we talk a little bit. They talk a little bit in this film about secret societies and the Illuminati and the elite. And so if you have your man-made emergency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you are able to provide the proper response to that emergency, you look like the good guy.
Yeah.
Although you were waiting for the perfect emergency to show you're the good guy. I believe it's called the Hegelian dialectic. I believe, probably butchering that.
I have not heard that. I'm a fan of that now.
So you create the cure, and then you create the disease, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. So that you can create the emergency to cure the disease. Yeah.
You're the bad guy from The Incredibles.
Yeah, basically. But if you're in charge of Apex, right, and you have all kinds of super cool technology that no one else has, because
Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos.
There's a bunch of there. I mean, there's a billion of those guys.
I wonder if Jeff Bezos is gonna like go talk to Elon and say, "Hey, you saw the Mechagodzilla, right? What do you think?" We're talking about how much cash he has to burn.
So that was that while discussing this podcast, right? We were discussing about how much money Jeff Bezos has and what you could do with that. And it turns out he could buy an aircraft carrier, fully staff it, And I mean, he would have a lot of stuff, right? He could have his own personal private military, bless his heart. But if you
Cyberpunk
have your
dystopia.
personal private military, right, and you've got Mecha Godzilla, and you can stop the Titans um, from destroying Hong Kong, from destroying Tokyo, from destroying Los Angeles, because normally it's like LA and New York. Those are the two cities
Yeah.
that get hit. Like I was excited to see a place other than like New York or Los Angeles get jacked up, because I've never been to Hong Kong, so like I have no idea what it looks like. I have to imagine that when they put this film together, they did a really good job of representing Hong Kong, and I would have to
All the
imagine.
neon colors.
Yeah, I definitely want to visit now.
Yeah, before the Titans destroy it.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know how many hours we got.
yeah, but I guess in my own stupid way, I'm saying the same way that Los Santos is supposed to be Los Angeles in Grand Theft Auto. I'm thinking the folks that put together this particular Godzilla versus Kong did a much better job of digitally building that city before they destroyed it with Titans.
Yeah.
So
What a gorgeous job.
Oh my gosh, it was gorgeous.
yeah,
Put so much love into it.
yeah, exactly. Like the and we've kind of talked about it on the podcast before, is these films and these series are to the point now where they're being remade by people that care about the original lore.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And I think that that's important. I do want to give a very special, solid shout out to Eddie Bravo. I got to pull this guy's name up, but he is the writer of the 2014 Godzilla. In fact, Siri, I believe it's Chris Chatham or David Chatham. You can look that up for me. But he is the writer of the 2014 Godzilla. He was also at the time a purple belt under Eddie Bravo of 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. Eddie
Really?
Bravo is well known as a theorist of the conspiracies, and he's open to a whole lot of different ideas. But this guy who wrote the 2014 Godzilla, who also wrote Ant-Man and a whole bunch of other stuff. What is his name?
Max Bornstein.
No, the other name. No, it's David or Chris Chatham. We're talking about the writer. 20.
Oh, that was the screenwriter.
Okay.
That's the only one that's coming up.
All right, I will pull it up, but that's definitely not Max Borenstein. So this dude, bless his heart, he I'm sure like a lot of this is stuff that got talked about on the mats, because it's stuff that we've talked about on the mats up here, not necessarily flat Earth or hollow Earth or anything like that, but we have, we've talked about all kinds of really cool stuff at 10th Planet Soul.net. Anyway, so
very cool group there.
very, very cool group. So these are all things that kind of come up in conversation just on the mat. So I would imagine that you could probably draw a direct line between, like this particular Godzilla movie and 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, 7 or 8 years ago. But with lots of mention of the Illuminati, of secret societies, of the elites and hidden technologies, hollow Earth, domed Earth.
Domed Earth.
which is part of the flat Earth idea, or can be part of. I'm sure there's a lot of different ways that the flat Earth can be split up, that the hairs can be split.
Yes.
So like how the original Godzilla tied into the fears of like nuclear war and stuff, we can kind of see how this new monsterverse could be tying into fears of
secret societies
and
rich people with too much power and money.
Absolutely.
That is kind of brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, but here's a really great thing, and this is where it becomes bigger than ourselves, right? Is that means that there's enough people all over the world that believe and enough to really understand why these are motivations for these characters. because
Yeah.
Yeah.
that means that in China, that means that in Australia, that means that and by the way, this cast is from all over the world, right? It's beautiful.
Yes. It was wonderful.
All right. So that means there are enough people all over the world that are catching these little things, right? That are catching, oh, they're actually talking about the Illuminati. Oh, they're actually talking about flat Earth and domed Earth, right? That it's starting a lot of different conversations, but these conversations are already being had all over the world.
Yeah. And just finally invading pop culture.
Yeah. Kind of that thing that, like I'm sure it was for the Japanese, it's that thing that you didn't really want to talk about, but you needed to talk about. You didn't have the right,
language.
or avenue to do it. So what do? You make a Godzilla.